She mocked the legends of human warriors, then witnessed one in battle. The skeptic, the meeting of doubt, the conference hall of Nexus Prime gleamed with polished metal and holographic displays. Commander Lixara stood tall among the assembled officers, her forearms crossed in a gesture of confident authority. Her violet skin shimmered under the artificial lights, a mark of her Valorian heritage. The Valorians were known throughout the galaxy as master strategists, their military academies producing the finest tactical minds in known space. Today's briefing focused on recent skirmishes along the outer colonies. Lixara listened with half her attention, already forming counter-strategies in her mind. She had fought in 17 major campaigns and never lost a single engagement. Her record was flawless, her reputation untouchable. The human forces reported 73% casualty rates, but held their position for 11 days, the intelligence officer reported, displaying data from a recent border conflict. Lixara snorted softly. Impossible. No force sustains those losses and maintains cohesion. The humans are exaggerating again. Several officers turned to look at her. She continued, unbothered by the attention. Their reports are always filled with dramatic heroics and unlikely survivals. I have studied their tactics extensively. They rely on emotion rather than logic, on improvisation rather than proper planning. Their so-called victories are accidents dressed up as strategy. A quiet voice spoke from the back of the room. With respect, Commander, those accidents have won wars. Lixara turned sharply. The speaker was a human, one of the few in the coalition command structure. He wore a simple gray uniform with minimal decorations. His name tag read Chen, and his rank insignia showed sergeant far below her commander status. He was unremarkable in appearance, average height for a human, dark hair cut short, and eyes that watched everything without seeming to judge. Sergeant Chen, Lixara said, her tone cool. Your species has survived numerous conflicts, yes, but survival is not the same as tactical excellence. You win through stubbornness and numbers, not skill. Marcus Chen stood slowly, his movements measured. Perhaps, Commander. Or perhaps we win because we understand something others do not. And what is that? Lixara challenged. That war is not a chess game. It is chaos that must be navigated, not controlled. Lixara's eyes narrowed. Chaos is the enemy of victory. Only through perfect planning and logical execution can battles be won. Before Marcus could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights flooded the conference hall. The holographic display shifted to show urgent incoming messages. Distress signal from mining colony Theta 9, the communications officer announced. They are under heavy attack by Skarath raiding forces. Estimated enemy strength 3,000 hostiles. Colony Defense Force 400 militia, minimal training, outdated weapons. The room fell silent. Everyone knew about the Skarath. They were brutal, efficient killers who struck isolated colonies, taking resources and slaves before vanishing into deep space. They never attacked without overwhelming advantage. Response time? Asked Admiral Vorik, the station commander. 6 hours minimum. By then, the colony will be overrun. Lixara stepped forward immediately. I volunteer to lead the rapid response team. Give me 200 coalition Marines and air support. I can have a defensive perimeter established before the main assault begins. Admiral Vorik nodded slowly. Approved. However, you will take Sergeant Chen as your tactical advisor. Lixara stiffened. Admiral, I do not require— this is not a request, Commander. The sergeant has experience fighting Skarath forces. You do not. He will accompany you. Lixara wanted to argue but knew better. She gave a sharp nod. Understood, sir. Journey to Theta 9, the transport ship cut through the darkness of space, carrying 200 elite coalition Marines toward Theta 9. Lixara sat in the command deck, studying tactical displays and formulating her strategy. The colony was built into an asteroid, with a single main entrance and several emergency airlocks. Defensively, it was a nightmare. Too many entry points, too much ground to cover with limited forces. Marcus Chen sat nearby, quiet as always, checking his equipment with methodical care. His rifle was older than standard issue, worn but well maintained. His armor showed signs of repair and modification. Sergeant, Lixara said without looking up from her displays, I want to be clear about something. I am in command of this operation. You are here to provide information, nothing more. Do not interfere with my tactical decisions. Understood, Commander, Marcus replied evenly. I have created a 3-tier defensive strategy, she continued. We will establish fortified positions at the main entrance, secondary corridors, and the central habitat dome. Overlapping fields of fire, pre-positioned explosives, and systematic fallback points. The Scarith will break themselves against our lines. Marcus looked at the tactical display she had prepared. He studied it for a long moment before speaking. The Scarith do not attack fortified positions head-on, Commander. They probe for weaknesses, find unexpected routes, and strike where you are not looking. Then we will cover every approach, Lixara said firmly. My plan accounts for all possibilities. Does it account for them cutting through the asteroid walls? Or using civilian hostages as shields? Or releasing toxic gas into the ventilation systems? Lixara turned to face him fully. Those tactics are dishonorable and inefficient. They are effective, Marcus said quietly. The Scarith do not care about honor. They care about winning quickly and leaving before reinforcements arrive. Your opinion is noted, Lixara said coldly. I will follow my plan. Marcus nodded and said nothing more. He returned to checking his equipment, his face unreadable. Arrival at Theta 9. The transport dropped from faster-than-light travel with a shudder that ran through the hull. Theta 9 appeared on the view screen, a massive asteroid pockmarked with mining scars and dotted with structures. Smoke rose from several sections. Weapons fire flickered across the surface like distant lightning. Status report, Lixara commanded. Colony defenses are holding at 30% capacity, the pilot reported. Scarath forces have breached the outer perimeter and are advancing through mining tunnels. Civilian casualties are mounting. Lixara studied the tactical feed, her mind racing through calculations. Deploy teams according to my specifications. Alpha Company to the main entrance, Bravo to secondary corridors, Charlie to the central dome. I want those positions fortified within 20 minutes. The Marines moved with practiced efficiency, filing out of the transport and spreading across the colony. Lixara coordinated from a mobile command post, watching multiple data streams simultaneously. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Marcus Chen geared up silently, loading magazines and checking his helmet seals. When the other Marines had deployed, he approached Lixara. Commander, I request permission to scout the mining tunnels. Denied, Lixara said immediately. Those tunnels are a maze. You will become lost or killed. All personnel will maintain assigned positions. The Scarath are using those tunnels to bypass your defenses, Marcus said. If we do not scout them, they will appear behind our lines. My defensive positions cover all major access points, Lixara insisted. Marcus pointed at the tactical display. There are 17 unofficial mining shafts not on the colony maps. Miners call them rat runs. The Scarith know about them. How could they possibly know about unofficial tunnels? Because they have done this before, Commander. Many times, Lixara hesitated, irritation flashing across her face. Fine, take 2 scouts and investigate. Report back within 30 minutes. Marcus nodded and disappeared into the chaos of the colony with 2 other soldiers. Lixara turned back to her displays, coordinating defensive positions and ammunition distribution. Everything was proceeding logically, systematically, perfectly. Then the first explosion tore through Alpha Company's position. The plan crumbles. The tactical display lit up with red emergency markers. Lixara's carefully positioned forces at the main entrance were under attack from behind. Somehow Scarith forces had appeared inside the defensive perimeter. How is this possible? Lixara demanded. That area was cleared. They came through the walls, Commander, a panicked voice reported over communications. They cut through the asteroid itself and emerged behind our lines. Lixara immediately began issuing new orders, trying to reorganize her forces. But the Scarith were already moving, exploiting the confusion with brutal efficiency. Her 3-tier defensive strategy was collapsing. Bravo Company reinforce Alpha's position. Charlie Company, establish a new perimeter around the civilian shelters. But Bravo Company was under attack as well. The Scarith had somehow predicted her defensive positions and struck at multiple points simultaneously. Her perfect plan was unraveling. Communication channels filled with shouting, weapons fire, and screams. Lixara felt something she rarely experienced, uncertainty. Her strategies were failing. Her forces were dying. The colony was being overrun. Then Marcus Chen's voice cut through the chaos, calm and clear. All units, this is Sergeant Chen. Fall back to the central marketplace. Ignore previous defensive positions. Move now. Sergeant, you are not authorized, Lixera began. Another explosion rocked the command post. The lights flickered. When they stabilized, the tactical display showed Scarith forces advancing from 4 directions. Marcus appeared at the command post entrance, his rifle ready. Commander, we need to move. This position is compromised. How did you know? Lixera asked, grabbing her weapon. Because it is exactly where I would attack if I were them, Marcus replied. He fired twice past her shoulder. 2 Scarith warriors fell dead in the corridor behind her. Lixera realized with cold certainty that she had been seconds from death. The human had saved her life. Follow me, Marcus said. Stay close. They ran through smoke-filled corridors as the colony burned around them. Lixera's perfect strategy had failed. Her logical planning had been useless. Everything she believed about warfare was crumbling like the walls around her. And the quiet human sergeant was, leading her through chaos as if he had been born in it. Awakening into the fire, Marcus moved through the burning colony with purpose, his rifle tracking targets with mechanical precision. Lixera followed close behind, her forearms gripping her own weapon tightly. The sounds of battle echoed from every direction. Screams, explosions, the sharp crack of energy weapons, and the guttural war cries of Scarith warriors. Central Marketplace, Marcus said into his comm unit. All coalition forces converge on my position. Bring civilians if you can, but do not stop moving. Lixera wanted to protest, to reassert her command, but she could not deny the evidence around her. Her carefully prepared positions had been overrun in minutes. Her forces were scattered and dying. Only Marcus seemed to understand what was happening. They emerged into the marketplace, a large open area beneath a transparent dome that showed the stars beyond. It had once been a bustling trade center. Now it was filled with smoke, debris, and terrified civilians huddled behind overturned stalls. Coalition Marines arrived in small groups, dragging wounded comrades and shepherding frightened colonists. They looked to Lixera for orders, but she found herself silent, her mind still trying to process the disaster her plan had become. Marcus stepped forward. Form a perimeter. Heavy weapons on the 3 main approaches. Medics in the center. Civilians stay low. We hold this position. The Marines hesitated, glancing at Lixera. She knew she should take command, should reassert her authority. Instead, she found herself nodding. Do as he says, she ordered quietly. The Marines moved immediately, their training overriding confusion. Within minutes, a defensive circle formed around the civilians. It was not elegant or sophisticated. It was simple, practical, and effective. Marcus climbed onto a raised platform, scanning the approaches with calm focus. Lixera joined him. This position is indefensible, she said, studying the open space. We are exposed from multiple angles. The dome is vulnerable to weapons fire. This contradicts basic defensive doctrine. Yes, Marcus agreed. That is why the Scarith will not expect us here. That is insane reasoning. Maybe. Marcus checked his ammunition count. But the Scarith think like you do, Commander. They expect logical, predictable defenses. They attack where you are strongest because they know exactly where that will be. Here in this open space, they cannot predict our positions or tactics. Before Lixera could respond, movement flickered at the marketplace's northern entrance. Scarith warriors emerged from the smoke, their chitinous armor gleaming, their weapons raised. They saw the coalition forces and charged with terrifying speed. Hold fire, Marcus commanded calmly. Let them commit. Lixera watched in horror as the enemy closed the distance. 50 meters, 40, 30. Why was he not giving the order to shoot? Now, Marcus said quietly. The coalition forces opened fire simultaneously. The concentrated volley caught the Scarith in the open, cutting down the entire first wave. The survivors retreated immediately, disappearing back into the corridors. They will probe the other approaches now, Marcus said, testing our strength at each point. When they find what they think is our weakest position, they will commit their main force there. How do you know this? Lixera asked. Because I have fought them 7 times. I know how they think. The human way. Over the next hour, the Scarith attacked from different directions, each time with small probing forces. Each time, Marcus repositioned defenders to create the illusion of weakness at different points. He was manipulating the enemy, feeding them false information through their own observations. Lixera watched with growing fascination. This was not the systematic warfare she had studied. This was psychological manipulation, improvisation, and instinct. It was chaotic and unpredictable. It was also working. "Commander," one of the Marines called out, "we have wounded here who need immediate evacuation." Lixara moved to assess the casualties. 3 Marines were badly injured, their armor torn by Scarath weapons. Without proper medical facilities, they would not survive. "We need to get them to the transport ship," she said. "The transport is on the opposite side of the colony," Marcus replied. "We cannot break the perimeter. Then they will die." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he turned to face her fully. "Not if we bring the transport to us. The landing zone is destroyed. The marketplace dome cannot support a ship that size." "No," Marcus agreed. "But it can support a controlled crash." Lixara stared at him. "You want to crash the transport ship through the dome? The pilots can guide it in, use emergency thrusters to slow descent. We evacuate civilians and wounded immediately. The Scarath will be confused by the maneuver, giving us a window to withdraw." "That is reckless. The pilots could be killed. The ship could crush us all." "Yes," Marcus said simply, "but it might work. And right now, might work is better than definitely dies." Lixara felt something shift inside her. Her entire life had been built on certainty, on calculated risks and logical outcomes. The human was proposing a plan that violated every principle she held. Yet she found herself considering it. "All right," she said finally. "Do it." Marcus contacted the transport pilots, explaining the plan in brief, clear terms. The pilots, both human, accepted without hesitation. Lixara wondered if all humans were this willing to embrace dangerous solutions. 10 minutes later, the marketplace dome shattered. The transport ship descended through the opening, its thrusters screaming, its hull scraping against the asteroid walls. It landed hard, crushing several market stalls, but it landed intact. "Move," Marcus shouted. The civilians ran for the ship, Marines covering their retreat. The Scarath, confused by the unexpected maneuver, hesitated just long enough. Wounded soldiers were carried aboard. Civilians packed into every available space. Lixara helped load the last group when she saw movement behind them. A Scarath war leader, larger than the others and carrying a massive plasma cannon, emerged from the smoke. It aimed directly at the transport's engines. Marcus saw it too. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward the enemy, firing as he ran. His shots barely scratched the creature's heavy armor. The war leader turned toward him, raising its cannon. Lixara watched in stunned disbelief as Marcus closed the distance. He was not retreating. He was attacking. Alone. Against an enemy that outweighed him 3 times over and wore armor his rifle could not penetrate. The Scarath fired. Marcus dove aside, the plasma blast missing by centimeters. He rolled to his feet and kept advancing. 20 meters, 15, 10. The war leader swung its cannon like a club. Marcus ducked under it, dropped his rifle, and drew a combat knife. He leaped onto the creature's back, finding gaps in the armor joints, driving the blade deep. The Scarath roared, thrashing violently. Marcus held on, striking again and again with mechanical precision. Green blood sprayed across the marketplace floor. Finally, the war leader collapsed, and Marcus rolled clear, breathing hard but alive. Lixara found herself running toward him. That was suicide. "You should be dead." Marcus retrieved his rifle, checking it for damage. "Probably. But the transport is safe. Why? Why risk yourself like that?" He looked at her with those calm, steady eyes. "Because someone had to. Because those civilians needed time to board. Because I have seen what the Scarath do to prisoners, and I will not let that happen again if I can prevent it." For the first time, Lixara understood. Human tactics were not about logic. They were about will. About choosing action over paralysis, about accepting terrible risks because the alternative was worse. "Get on the ship, Sergeant," she said quietly. "Not yet. We still have Marines holding the perimeter. I will get them." "You have done enough." Marcus shook his head. "Not how humans operate, Commander. We finish the mission. Together." The last stand. They moved through the colony one final time, gathering the scattered Marines who had held the line. The Scarath were regrouping, preparing for a final assault. Marcus led the withdrawal, coordinating rearguard actions that bought precious seconds. A group of civilians appeared from a side corridor, running in panic. Behind them, Scarath warriors gave chase. Marcus moved to intercept, placing himself between the civilians and their pursuers. "Get to the ship," he shouted to the civilians. The Scarath opened fire. Marcus returned fire, dropping 2 warriors, but there were too many. Lixara joined him, her forearms allowing her to fire 2 weapons simultaneously. Together they created a wall of suppressing fire. "We need to fall back," Lixara said. "The civilians need more time. We will die here." "Maybe," Marcus said, reloading with practiced speed. "But they will not." Lixara felt something break inside her. All her training, all her pride, all her assumptions about warfare and humanity crashed against the reality before her. This human was willing to die for people he had never met. Not because strategy demanded it. Not because calculations showed it was optimal. But because it was right. "No," she said firmly. "We both survived this." She grabbed Marcus and pulled him behind cover using her superior Valorian strength. Then she activated her personal shield generator, extending it to cover both of them. It was a last resort measure. The shield would drain completely in seconds under sustained fire. "Run," she commanded. They sprinted for the transport, the shield flickering under enemy fire. Behind them, the remaining Marines provided covering fire. They reached the ship just as the shield collapsed. The ramp closed behind them. "Go," Marcus shouted to the pilots. The transport engines roared. The ship lifted through the shattered dome, rising toward the safety of space. Below, the colony continued to burn, but hundreds of civilians had been saved. Lixara collapsed against a bulkhead, her body shaking with exhaustion and adrenaline. Marcus sat beside her, breathing hard, his armor scorched and dented. "Your plan," she said quietly. "It should not have worked, but it did. You risk everything on instinct and chaos." "It is madness," Marcus smiled faintly. "Yes, but it is our madness. And sometimes, Commander, madness is the only sane response to an insane situation." Lixara looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. The truth, aftermath, and reflection. The transport ship docked at Nexus Prime 18 hours later. Medical teams rushed aboard to treat the wounded. Civilians were processed and sent to temporary housing. Coalition Marines filed reports and surrendered their weapons for maintenance. The organized chaos of military efficiency surrounded them. Lixara walked through the docking bay in silence, her mind replaying the battle over and over. Her perfect strategy had failed within minutes. Her logical planning had been worse than useless. It had been predictable, exploited by an enemy who understood exactly how she would think. Marcus Chen had saved the mission. More importantly, he had saved her. "Commander Lixara," Admiral Vorik's voice came through her comm unit. "Report to my office immediately." She made her way through the station corridors, each step heavy with the weight of failure. She had lost this engagement in every way that mattered. Yes, they had saved civilians. Yes, they had evacuated successfully. But her plan had collapsed, and only human intervention had prevented total disaster. Admiral Vorik's office was austere, decorated only with commendations and battle flags. The Admiral himself was a Kronar, a bear-like species known for their straightforward military doctrine. He gestured for her to sit. "I have reviewed the combat logs," he said without preamble. "Your initial defensive strategy was compromised within 17 minutes. 73 coalition casualties. The mission was preserved only through the actions of Sergeant Chen." "Yes, sir," Lixara said stiffly. "I take full responsibility for the failures." "Do you understand why your strategy failed?" Lixara hesitated. Pride warred with newfound understanding. Finally she spoke. "I treated the battle as a mathematical problem to be solved. I believed that perfect planning would guarantee victory. I was wrong." Vorik nodded slowly. "The Skarath have terrorized the outer colonies for decades, Commander. We have sent dozens of task forces against them. All used logical, systematic approaches. All failed to stop them. Do you know why? Because the Skarath do not fight logically," Lixara said quietly. "They fight to create chaos, to exploit hesitation and confusion." "Exactly. And do you know who has been most successful against them?" Lixara already knew the answer. "Human forces. 73% success rate," Vorik confirmed. "Humans understand something the rest of us struggle with. War is not chess. It is not a problem to be solved through calculation. It is a test of will, adaptability, and the courage to act when outcome is uncertain." "I mocked them," Lixara admitted. "I called their victories accidents. I believed humans succeeded through luck and stubbornness. And now? Now I understand that what I called luck was actually intuition developed through experience. What I called stubbornness was actually determination to succeed regardless of cost. They do not fight the way I was taught, but their way works." Vorik leaned back. "The Coalition needs commanders who can learn, Lixara. Commanders who can adapt when their assumptions prove wrong. You have that capacity. The question is whether you have the humility to accept it. A student once more over the following weeks, Lixara did something she had never done before. She studied human military history not to find flaws but to understand principles. She watched combat footage of human soldiers in dozens of conflicts. She read after-action reports written by human commanders. She attended tactical seminars taught by human instructors. Patterns emerged that contradicted everything she had been taught. Human tactics emphasized flexibility over rigid planning. They prepared multiple contingency options rather than one perfect strategy. They empowered low-ranking soldiers to make battlefield decisions rather than relying solely on command authority. They valued creativity and improvisation as much as discipline and training. Most importantly, humans fought with emotional investment. They did not view war as an abstract strategic exercise. They fought to protect people, to preserve ideals, to prevent suffering. That emotional connection gave them strength that pure logic could not match. One evening, Lixara found Marcus Chen in one of the station's training facilities, running combat drills with a group of young recruits. She watched from the observation deck as he guided them through close-quarters combat scenarios. "Again," Marcus said patiently as a recruit made a mistake. "You are thinking too much. Trust your training, react." The recruit tried again, moving more fluidly this time. "Better. Remember? In combat, you will not have time to calculate optimal responses. You must trust yourself." When the session ended, Lixara approached him. "Sergeant Chen, may I speak with you?" "Of course, Commander." They walked to a quiet observation deck overlooking the stars. For a moment, neither spoke. "I owe you an apology," Lixara said finally. "I disrespected your abilities and your species. I allowed arrogance to blind me to truth. You saved my life and the lives of hundreds of others. I was wrong about humans." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Commander, I do not need an apology. But I appreciate it. How did you know?" she asked. "In that marketplace during the battle, you made decisions so quickly." "How did you know what to do?" "I did not know," Marcus admitted. "I guessed. I made my best judgment based on experience and accepted that I might be wrong. That is all any soldier can do. But you were not wrong. This time, I have been wrong before. Other times in other battles I made bad calls. People died because of my decisions." His voice carried old pain. "But I learned from those failures. That is what humans do, Commander. We fail, we learn, we adapt, we continue." Lixara absorbed this. In Valorian military doctrine, failure is unacceptable. A commander who fails loses their position and honor. Then Valorian commanders must be afraid to take risks, Marcus said. "Fear of failure leads to paralysis. Sometimes the boldest action is the best action, even if it might fail." "Is that why you charged that Scarith war leader? Knowing you would likely die?" "I calculated the probability of success," Marcus said with a slight smile. "It was approximately 12%. But the probability of the transport being destroyed was 98% if I did nothing. So I chose action over inaction." "That is insane." "Yes, but insanity is sometimes rational." He turned to face her fully. "Commander, you are a brilliant strategist. Your planning was excellent according to traditional doctrine. You simply faced an enemy that does not follow traditional patterns. Now you know that. Next time will be different. Next time," Lixara repeated. "You believe there will be a next time?" "The Scarith are still raiding colonies. The Coalition will deploy forces again, and when they do, you will be better prepared." The Report 3 weeks after the Theta 9 engagement, Lixara submitted her formal report to Coalition Command. She had spent days writing and rewriting it, struggling to express concepts that contradicted her training. Official Report, Theta 9. Defensive Operation Commanding Officer, Commander Lixara. Valorian Strategic Core Summary. This officer's initial tactical assessment was flawed. Standard defensive doctrine proved inadequate against Scarath raiding tactics. Mission success was achieved through the intervention and leadership of Sergeant Marcus Chen, Terran Defense Force. Key findings. Human tactical doctrine emphasizes adaptability over rigid planning. This approach proves highly effective against irregular forces. Human soldiers demonstrate exceptional psychological resilience under combat stress. This resilience allows continued function when traditional forces become paralyzed by chaos. Human decision-making incorporates intuition, developed through experiential learning. This intuition often produces correct tactical choices faster than algorithmic analysis. Human forces exhibit strong mission commitment derived from emotional investment in protecting civilian life. This commitment drives extraordinary individual performance. Recommendations: 1. Coalition tactical training should incorporate human improvisation methods alongside traditional strategic planning. 2. Human liaison officers should be assigned to all rapid response teams facing irregular threats. Cross-species tactical exchanges should be expanded to facilitate knowledge transfer between human and non-human forces. This officer requests reassignment to undergo advanced training with human military units to better understand their operational methods. Conclusion: the legends of human military capability are not exaggerations. They are understatements. Humanity has developed warfare methods uniquely suited to chaos and uncertainty. The Coalition would benefit greatly from embracing these methods. Respectfully submitted, Commander Lixara. The report circulated through Coalition Command, generating controversy and discussion. Some officers dismissed it as the embarrassed excuse of a commander who had failed. Others recognized it as an honest assessment of a significant capability gap. Admiral Vorik called her to his office again. "Your report has created quite a stir," he said. "Some consider it defeatist. Others call it revolutionary. I wrote only what I observed, sir. I know. That is why I am approving your request. You will spend the next 6 months training with the Terran Defense Force, studying their methods directly. When you return, you will help develop new Coalition tactical doctrine." Lixara felt a surge of something unfamiliar. Not pride in the traditional sense, but satisfaction in growth. "Thank you, sir." 6 months later, Lixara stood on Earth in the human homeworld's primary military academy. Around her, human instructors ran recruits through brutal training exercises. She participated alongside them, learning to think like they did. She learned that human warfare was built on a foundation of controlled aggression and calculated risk-taking. That human soldiers trained to function independently because communication often failed in combat. That human tactics valued speed and violence of action over patient positioning. She learned that humans studied their failures more intensely than their successes. That human commanders were expected to take responsibility for mistakes rather than deflecting blame. That human military culture valued mission accomplishment over personal glory. Most importantly, she learned that human strength came not from physical superiority or technological advantage, but from psychological resilience. Humans had evolved on a dangerous world where survival required constant adaptation. That evolutionary pressure had created a species uniquely suited to warfare's chaos. On her final day of training, she stood before a class of human cadets, invited to share her perspective. "When I first met a human warrior," she began, "I laughed at the legends. I thought they were myths created to hide weakness. I believed humans won through accident and luck." The cadets watched her silently. "Then I fought alongside a human soldier. I watched him make decisions in seconds that I would need hours to calculate. I saw him risk everything to save people he had never met. I witnessed courage that defied logic and determination that refused to accept failure." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I learned that the legends were not exaggerations. They were inadequate descriptions of something my species struggled to understand. You humans have a saying, 'Fortune favors the bold.' I now understand its meaning. You do not wait for perfect conditions. You create opportunity through action. You do not calculate probability of success. You fight until success is achieved or death prevents further fighting." One cadet raised a hand. "Commander, what changed your mind?" Lixara smiled. "A sergeant showed me that war is not mathematics. It is art. And humans are artists who paint with chaos." Returned to Nexus Prime. When Lixara returned to Nexus Prime, she carried with her a new understanding. She also carried something else, a human combat knife given to her by Marcus Chen as a gift. "You will face chaos again," he had told her. "When you do, remember that logic is a tool, not a prison. Trust yourself to adapt." She found Marcus in the same training facility where they had last spoken. He was running drills with a new group of recruits, this time a mixed unit of humans and aliens learning to operate together. "Sergeant Chen," she greeted him formally. He turned, a slight smile on his face. "Commander, I heard about your training. How was Earth?" "Humbling," she admitted. Your people have much to teach the galaxy. And the galaxy has much to teach us, Marcus replied. That is why we train together. They stood side by side watching the recruits work. Humans moved alongside Valorians, Kronars, and other species, each learning from the others. The coalition is changing, Lixera observed, because of soldiers like you. Not just me, Marcus said. Because of commanders like you. Ones willing to admit mistakes and learn from them. That is true courage, Commander. Lixera felt warmth spread through her chest. I have one question, Sergeant. During that battle, when you charged the Scarath war leader, you said the probability of success was 12%. Yes. Were you truly calculating odds in that moment? Or were you simply acting? Marcus smiled. Honestly, I made up that number. I had no idea what the odds were, but I knew that doing something was better than doing nothing. Sometimes you must leap before you know where you will land. Lixera laughed, a sound of genuine amusement. You are insane. Yes, Marcus agreed cheerfully. Most humans are. It is one of our better qualities. Epilogue. The New Doctrine. 2 years after the Theta 9 engagement, the Coalition adopted new tactical guidelines. The Adaptive Response Doctrine incorporated human flexibility, alongside traditional strategic planning. Mixed species rapid response teams became standard, pairing human intuition with alien analytical capabilities. Lixera commanded one such team, now holding the rank of colonel. Her forces responded to threats across the frontier, successfully countering irregular forces that had previously overwhelmed coalition defenses. She never forgot the lesson she learned on Theta 9. War was not chess. It was chaos that must be navigated with courage, adaptability, and will. The galaxy still told stories of human warriors, but now those who had fought alongside humans understood. The legends were not myths. They were testimonies to a truth that transcended species. Humanity did not conquer through strength. They endured through determination. They did not win through perfect planning. They succeeded through perfect execution in imperfect circumstances. And perhaps most importantly, they taught the galaxy that sometimes the bravest thing a warrior can do is admit they have something to learn. Commander Lixera kept the combat knife Marcus had given her, mounted on her office wall. Beneath it, she placed a plaque with words in both Valorian and English. Legends are not born from exaggeration. They are born from truth witnessed by those brave enough to acknowledge it. She had laughed at human warriors once. She would never make that mistake again. Comment for next part.